All right. Fraud safety tips. The first line of defense is you and your habits. And I want you to always protect yourself. Here we go. Who is at risk for fraud? Everyone is. It's not a matter of when it happens to you. It's a matter of, or if it happens to you, it's more of a matter of when it's going to happen to you. So personally, I have received a lot of these letters and emails. I just recognized that it was fraud. So I did not become a victim. So stay vigilant, okay? All of us are at risk. Credit versus debit. When making purchases, running the transaction as credit instead of debit will help protect you. How? Because it prevents the hackers from gaining direct access to your bank account. Your debit card is directly connected to your bank account. When paying with a debit card, you have to enter your 4-digit PIN. A criminal could look over your shoulder and watch you enter that 4-digit PIN. The money will come directly from your bank account. However, when you're using your credit card, you don't need to enter a PIN. And that money is not taken out of your bank account immediately. You guys get the difference between that? What am I saying? When you're out using a card, use a credit card, not your debit. Do not enter your 4-digit PIN when you're out at stores. Do not do it. Use your credit card, and then whatever you charge with your credit card, you yourself go into your bank account or go into that credit card account and pay with your debit card. But when you're out and about, don't use your debit. Use your credit to protect yourself. Any questions?
Yes, if your debit card, when you run it through, gives you the option to do credit or debit, so just select credit is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just select credit. Okay.
I have a question. So yes. Some of our cards, you don't have to insert, you can just tap.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tap,
mm-hmm.
typically I don't have to put a pin in. Is that better versus having to slide it in? I know I didn't stomp you.
No, you did not. So I know what you're saying. And what I want to say to you is going to come up in another slide.
Okay, I'll wait.
So let me say this. Whether you tap it, you insert it, or slide it, use it as credit. Is that good?
Yes.
All right. Credit cards. They're such a good thing, aren't they? But all credit cards are considered a loan, okay? I'm not a financial person, but all credit cards are considered a loan. I want you guys to know that.
Officer O'Bryant?
Yes.
There is a comment in the chat that says, using credit, you are not placing your personal funds at risk, excuse me. With credit, you are using the bank's funds versus your own, and therefore, if fraud happens, it is the bank's funds.
Absolutely. And I said it a little bit simpler in that other slide, but that's exactly why you want to do that, right? If you run your debit card, so I'm sorry, you do not have to go back another slide. If you run your debit card and it was a fraudulent transaction, or you're out of that money is gone from your checking account. It's gone. Now you have to go to your bank or credit union and explain to them that transaction you did was fraudulent and you did not know it, you're a victim. They will look into it to see if they can get it back. But I'm here to tell you, out of all the police reports I've taken and made, they are not able to get that money back. They're not able to get your money back when you use debit. It's very difficult because it's gone. Credit cards. Paying your bills with a credit card monthly or when you travel is a good way to keep money safe in your bank account. This goes along with the comment that was made in the chat. You can then pay your credit card with your debit card when it's due. More use of credit cards and less use of debit cards will protect your money. Once again, this prevents the direct access to your bank account. It's more challenging for the banks or credit union to stop the payments. That's what I said. It's very hard, okay? Very hard. If you're traveling and you like using your debit card and that's what you use and your debit card is lost or it's damaged, how are you going to gain access into your bank account for that money? Right? Yes, you can have it stored on your cell phone. You can gain access that way. But if you're out traveling or you're out shopping, I would rather you use your credit card. You want your credit cards lost or stolen before your debit card. Okay? You guys hear me? Next slide, please. Fishing. I'm not talking about getting your fishing pole and going to Lake Michigan and going fishing. This is another kind of fishing. However, it's pronounced like the sport fishing. Fishing. IT people know this. It's when you receive fraudulent emails and these emails act as if they're legitimate, right? They look real. They look like they're from a real business. They look like they're from someone you know, and they're not. They're not at all. These fraudulent emails are sent to you because they want your personal information. They want your passwords. They want your credit card numbers, you know, and they want you to click on a link they put in that email so they can install malware. Malware is a software that's intended to damage your computer, right, or mobile device or computer system, or to take over your system. They want your information. They really want people with good credit information. They want a lot of senior citizens' information. Our senior citizens today are baby boomers, and then their parents are part of the what? Great generation. These people save a lot of money. Their habits of spending money is not frivolous. They are targeted a lot. So in this presentation, not only look out for yourself, but look out for your older loved ones who aren't as computer savvy in this technical age. Next slide, please. Smishing. Smishing. It's like phishing, except it's when they send you a text message. Because we do know these cell phones are what? More of a computer than it is a phone. I think more people use their cell phones as a computer, less as a talking device. My first cell phone I remember was in the 90s. It was a lot smaller and you only got like 300 minutes, something small, to call and talk to people. It didn't do everything we're doing. It didn't do email. It didn't have the map quest on there. It didn't do all of these things. So you have to protect yourself. You have a computer with you every day. Text messages. Sending you a fraudulent text message. Why? They want you to provide them with that same information, a password, account number, your social security number, all of that. They want that. They want your emails, your bank account, your credit card, social media, your social media passwords. They want all of that. Spammers send unsolicited, usually commercial messages in large numbers. They just didn't find your cell phone number and just send it to you. They send it to a lot of people. They'll send internet postings, these text messages, emails. I don't know if you guys recall, but what was big at least 4 or 5 years ago, people were receiving text messages from what they thought was an older, a loved one. And we found it was coming to a lot of senior citizens. A friend of mine who's a retired officer, her mother was a victim to it. Her mom decided to tell her after she sent money. So here's the example. Her mother got a text message from who she thought was her grandson. It said, "My car broke down. Can you send me money? I'm out of town." She went to Walmart or Myers and wired money because they asked for money, wired money. It wasn't him. She later told her daughter, who's the retired police officer, and she's like, "Mom, that doesn't even sound like something your grandson, my son, would do." But her money was gone. I think she wired like $500. You see how they get to you? They play on your emotions. Why would my grandson, oh, my grandson in trouble? Sure, I'm going to go right to the store and wire him money. She got her grandson's phone number in her phone. She did not call him. She just went to the store and wired money to a stranger. You are the first line of offense. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Next slide, please. Spoofing. What is spoofing? That's when the scammers are disguising a communication or identity so it appears to be associated with a trusted, authorized source. That's an example in that slide. That's not real, right? A trusted, authorized source. You can be spoofed through a caller ID. What does that look like? Well, I took a police report. This lady called our police department saying she received a call from our police department saying that she owed money because she did not pay a fine and it turned into a warrant. And if she didn't pay, we would come to arrest her. It showed up as our police department on her caller ID. I apologize. It was the sheriff's department. It showed up as the sheriff's department's phone number on her caller ID, but it wasn't them. That's an example of spoofing. When you get a call from someone you believe it's legitimate, don't believe it, because there's a way, obviously, that the criminals have been able to take a legitimate number, make it show up when they call you, but that's not really the number they're calling from. A lot of people were getting letters or calls from the IRS. You owe money. If you don't pay, we're going to send the local sheriff or the FBI to your house and get that money, or you'll be arrested. When there's a threat, you know it's not real. They're trying to scare you. Next.
Sora Levi, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Actually more of a comment on the spoofing. So another way too with emails, a lot of times there will be grammatical errors, a lot of typos in those emails, and you'll know that is not a legitimate email. You may see a logo, so you'll see this trusted bank logo. It looks like it's coming from them, but if you click on the sender, it will be from some other totally different account like AOL or Gmail or something like that. So just some other ways for you to look out for those spoofing techniques through email.
Now, do you guys know what she's talking about when you click on it to look at the sender? You can also go up in the, I'm sorry if anyone is more technical. I know Sandy, you are, and I do not know the accurate word. When you go up into, I want to call it the search, but it's not. When you go up and you hit the URL and you just put your cursor on it, it should let you know where it's coming from. It did. What is that line called?
I believe it's your URL line, like you said.
Okay, URL line. So you have to be vigilant. You have to know it. Okay, and when it's an email, like Maggie said, you can hover over things in that email. Now, working at the police department, our IT sends us bogus emails all the time to see if they're real, to see if we're doing our job. Because if we click on it, and I work for a city, the whole city is vulnerable if it's a bad email. And she did hit on one thing that's very important. Grammatical errors. Read it. Read that whole document. You can tell, like, what? That's not basic sentence structure. That's not the right word. In American English, if you want to use the word fair, there's how many different ways to spell fair? 4 or 5. They're not spelling, they're not using the right thing because it's not legitimate. And another thing you need to know, many times these frauds online, 70% or more are out of the country. We're not even talking about out of the state of Michigan. We're talking out of the country. They're coming from many countries in Africa, coming from many countries from the continent of Africa. They're coming from some Asian countries. And local police departments do not investigate that. In order for our federal government to investigate large fraud schemes, they would have to be contacted, or they would have to be watching, because all criminal police reports are reported to our federal government, okay? They would have to choose and want to jump on that and say, you know what, we think this is connected. Let's go into Kalamazoo. Let's go into Battle Creek and see if this is the same thing. Yeah, we're going to take a trip over to the continent of Africa and find the origin of this. They have found that they have investigated and charged people in other countries with this widespread fraud. Next, please.
Sora Presley has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to really make a comment because the smishing I think you were talking about earlier, that happened to me, where they got into my information on my email, my account, and they called me on a Saturday and said that someone was into my Zelle account and had transferred money to, they asked me if I knew someone in Florida. And because it came up as PNC. And so, and I said no. And I was a little cautious, but this guy was so good. He was so good. And he had literally gotten on my phone because he was sending me stuff on my phone, but because of all the security alerts that I have in place through PNC, that's what I wanted to emphasize with people. Make sure you set up all your security stuff through your credit union and your bank. Everything that they can set up for you, have them do it. He couldn't get through it, so that's why he contacted me. And then he sent me a letter, just like you said, looked completely like PNC, but I thought I was being smart. I got on my landline while he was talking to me and called the number that it said call in the letter. And it went right to PNC. It went to PNC. So he obviously had a duplicate letter of PNC because I called the number. And then finally he said, ma'am, what we need to do for you is close your account and open it back up so they won't get any more money. I said, on a weekend? And then I started getting a little suspicious. He said, well, ma'am, we'll have to shut your account down to save it. I said, well, just shut it down. Just shut it down. I don't do that kind of stuff over the phone. I'll come in Monday morning. Ma'am, we can save you a trip. You know, you could lose your money over the weekend. And that's when I said, no, I'm not doing anything over the phone. I do that in person, and the person hung up. I immediately called the PNC line. I forwarded the letter and information to them. And they said they have been, at that time, that was like a year ago, they had been getting letters like that. But when you look at a letter like that, my first thought, it had to be a former employee of PNC. There were no grammatical errors, and it had the PNC number because I called it on my landline while I was talking, and it went right to PNC. So they are more and more sophisticated. If you, like me, if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it.
That's a wonderful example. And what you also brought up that I tell everyone, if you find that you are a victim of fraud, you want to go directly to your bank or credit union. You want to close that account. What do I mean? I don't mean close that one and so let me be careful what I'm saying. You want to totally shut down that account. You want to shut down any debit cards or credit cards you have connected to that account. You want to reopen another account, different account, not having any of your old debit or credit cards connected to it. You want to be reissued a new debit card with that account. Why? If the criminals who have your information keep using that old account, you'll be able to know, in your bank, financial institution will know that's not you, that's the criminals, because you have shut down that account and you've totally reopened something else.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that's what PNC had me do that Monday morning. We just did everything and I got a new debit card. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I've had some banks and credit unions at least in the Battle Creek area, be upset because I was telling everybody, no, don't have them talk you into just getting a new debit or credit card. That's not going to help. You want nothing connected to your account. If those criminals have access, assume if they have your debit card information, they have access to your bank account that's connected to that debit card. So you want to totally shut it down, shut it all down, and reopen another one. If your financial institution tell you they can't do that, then take your money out and go somewhere else that will. That makes no sense. Okay?
Sora McMillan, I saw your hand. Did you have a comment?
I had a comment. I think it was more on the spoofing part, but I just want to also say that in the chat, Sora Birch Clark has put the link. So please take the opportunity at some point to complete that, our job form, just to evaluate our presentation. And also Madam President put a comment in the chat that says the email does not match the sender's name. And I just, when you were kind of talking about people kind of trying to scam from other countries and things, Facebook is another one where they will get on. And so I personally had this happen to me where someone hacked into my aunt's account, made a fake account. It looked like her and took pictures off of her account and all that.
Yeah.
And sent me a message, and she said, she was like, hey, Sandy, things are a little tight right now. Can you send me a couple $100? And so I was like, well, first and foremost, my aunt has a good job, and I'm thinking, okay, so what is she not telling me, you know? And but I was like, she wouldn't send a message to me like this if she didn't need it. But something said, you know what? Call her, because why would she try to communicate with me on Facebook and not call my phone? If she wanted something from me, she would call me. So I called her, and she said, no, I never sent a message out like that. But this person had sent other people emails and things, and people had sent money to this. And a friend, like one of her friends, I think, sent like $300, and it's like, oh, I sent, I sent the money you requested. And she was like, I never sent that. So we do have to be careful, because people are getting smarter and smarter, and also people are stealing pictures from other people's accounts and coming in and saying, oh, trying to communicate with you and get money, or even just trying to pretend that there's somebody else. And we really have to be careful. And I've noticed that a lot of the guys that try to scam you from Africa, they'll say dear a lot. Oh, how are you doing, dear? Or they'll pretend like they want to date you, and, oh, I'm in the army, and and then they have these like pictures and videos, and it's not even them. So you just really have to be careful and know who you're talking to. That's it.
Thank you. Sora, Ruth?
Yes, I want to go back to the banking. I had some checks written. I don't know how they got my check, but the bank called and said, did you write a check to so-and-so? And I'm like, no, because they knew it was unusual. I usually don't write checks. I do electronic banking. But what they did, they held the account. They didn't close it right away, but they put it under fraud status. They opened a new account to allow me, because I was having retirement funds come in. So if they closed the account, my oncoming funds would not have went into the account. So they put it under fraud. No, I couldn't use it. Anytime any funds went into the account, I had to call the fraud department to transfer it until my account caught up with the fraud deposits caught up with my new account. So closing it would have been not beneficial, because it would have held up my funds that was incoming. But the fraud department just placed, again, that emphasis that it went into that account, and I had to call them directly. I couldn't even go into the bank and say, transfer this to my new account. Everything had to go through the fraud account. And then when everything caught up, the fraud department just closed that account.
How long did that take?
It took 4 weeks, because it took 3 weeks it took 4 weeks for my pension and Social Security and everything to change to the new account. They couldn't do it right away.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing that your fraud department caught it. I don't know if all banks or financial institutions are that quick. Many times when the police get a call, it's not that quick. All of us have spending habits. Your bank has a system, a tracking system that usually will alert them if you're spending money and it's not part of your habit. You know what I mean? If you're out of town and you're spending money and it just doesn't appear to be within your habit of banking and using your card, they may shut it down.
Yeah, that's true. I was in a Nigerian store in Detroit, and they automatically refused it.
See?
I had to actually call the bank to say, yes, I'm in this African market, process this. And it took them a while. I ended up having to just use a different credit card, because I used a credit union. The credit union would not honor it because they just thought it was suspicious.
Good. How did you feel about that?
I was fine with it. I'm like, protect me.
Yeah, my credit union does the same thing, and I really like it. I don't get upset at all.
Good. So you guys were using your debit cards then, right?
I was using my debit card, but I process it as a well, in the African market, I was using my debit card, but trying to process it as a credit, but it still went through the credit union's banking. And so they still refused it. And then with my checks, I still don't know how they got my checks. The sheriff said probably through a mail, but I don't mail checks. So they said it probably was someone who maybe I wrote a check in the store, which the only place I write is in Costco's, but they said they could even get the old check if I maybe dropped the old check, or I don't know how they got it. And when they went to court, they never told me how the person got it.
Interesting. Interesting. So when you're out shopping, if you have a credit card, use your credit card. Don't use your debit. Use your credit card. Even everyone can get a credit card to their bank or credit union. Don't use your debit. Just use your credit card. Next slide, please.
I think, sorry, Vincent Baker is about to want to chime in.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my hand to raise. I had two questions I wanted to ask. First of all, you know how all of us live by habit a lot of the time. How often should we change our passwords? And that's one. And the other one, when someone calls us these weird calls, if you happen to ask them, someone told me if you say yes, they can record that yes, your response, and use your voice over again on other things. So that was just two questions. One is, how often should we change our, because I know I just got hacked last week, and I do know my bank manager, and he was able to give me another debit card. He said we think late night shopping is good, but sometimes that's when the criminals catch you. I'm out of town, and I was really upset because it delayed me coming out of town because I needed to get my stuff. But he was able to do mine like in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But that was just the two questions I had was, how often should we change our passwords? Would you recommend? And can they copy your voice when they call you and you say yes, or should you just say hello? Or are there anything, can they copy other people's voices?
Those are good questions.
Because see, for me, I use the same password I know a lot of the time for years. I mean,
Yeah.
But my bank want me to change mine.
So your first question, how often should we change our passwords? I would say change them as often as possible, because that will protect you also, right? I personally, I use the same password and just change one character in that password, because I also have, which, man, is not a good thing, okay? But I have a password book. It looks like an old school address book. I can't remember all of these passwords. So what I found in many things, when it comes to my banks and my accounts, financial institutions, I usually have the same password and PIN for all of them, and will change a special character. So when it's time to change, I'll change something in that. Because if I totally change that password, then I won't have access to my account. So if you can change, to me, I can't tell you what's often for you, but you can think in your mind, how often should I change this? Maybe I can change it 4 times a year. Maybe I'll change it quarterly. A new quarter is starting. Let me change my passwords, if that's a good time for you, right? Yes, they can record your voice. Just like my voice we are all being recorded right now. But yes, they can record. Recording is easy. If you don't recognize a call you're getting, if someone calls your cell phone and they're trying to get you to buy something, or they're posing as your bank or financial institution, and it just doesn't seem right to you, don't say nothing. Hang up. say wrong number. Sometimes I even talk like I have a foreign accent. and or I act like I'm hard of hearing and hang up.
Soror O'Brien, there are a couple of messages in the chat. So Sora McCann says someone had to have had one of your checks and just ordered new ones with your information that they pulled from an old check. Danielle Bracy said, it's helpful to notify your bank when traveling as well to avoid interruptions, but also from the knowledge of working in fraud and loss prevention. When you are being blocked, you have to input your PIN, and that notifies the bank that it is indeed you, but credit is always better. Sora McCann said, yes, I always add a travel notice anytime I'm leaving Michigan on a credit or debit card. And Sora Birch Clark says, my bank always requests me to change my password.
However often your bank wants you to change your password, I would say change it whenever they ask you to. And you don't have to, but that's an added protection. My bank is Bank of America. And I went down to the Essence Festival in 2019. Or was that 18? I can't remember. It was the 25th year Essence Festival. And I forgot to notify them that I was driving down to Louisiana, and I went to put some gas in my car, and lo and behold, my car did not work. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And I said, I know what happened. So I immediately called them, and they said, yeah, we shut that down. We're like, this, you need to let us know. So she didn't even turn it back on while I was speaking to her. She told me, you need to go into your account yourself and put on the travel advisory. And it turned back on my card. And I like that. To me, I'm like, why you inconvenience me? It's me calling you. But then again, how she know it's me calling her? Yeah, you'll have to go through those, give them certain information. But why not put me through that for the safety of my money, right? So that is true. Contact your financial institutions when you're traveling, but I still don't want you to use your debit card when you're traveling. Use your credit card. Matter of fact, it might be easy to have all purchases for your trip, vacation, be on one card instead of going back and forth. Well, I'm going to use my debit for this. I'm going to use my credit for this. Put everything on the credit card. Everything on that credit card, and then pay your credit card when the trip is over. Go ahead,
Soror Birch Clark has a comment, and then we're going to ask to put the rest in the chat because we have about 7 more slides to get through.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that one bank that I go to, which is Honor Credit Union, they have a travel card, which I can load money on instead of using, like when I travel, instead of using my debit card, because I don't like to, when I'm in a restaurant, I really don't like giving the waitress or the waiter my debit card for them to go take it somewhere to process it, is one thing. But yeah, I do try to use, there is a disadvantage of when you're probably using it for gas, where they'll hold that $75 against it. But so that's something you have to be aware of. But for little things, I do try to use that travel card because it's not connected directly to my bank account. So.
Very good.
And there are a couple of responses in the chat. Sora McKent says, I purchased Visa cards when I traveled out of the country before. And Madam President said that is a good point.
Next slide, please. Fake checks and money orders. This is so real, so real, so real. Fake checks and money orders. Anyone with a computer, laptop, cell phone, all of us have these, and access to a nice printer can create a fake check and make it look real. Right? So not only are they creating a fake check, when you make a fake check, it could be considered a counterfeit check, right? Because you created it. When you steal someone's check, here's an example. For those of you that pay your bills by writing a check and putting it in your mailbox, mailbox larceny is huge. Battle Creek, it was really bad. Kalamazoo too. If you wrote a check to Consumers Energy for $100, you put it in your mailbox for your mailman to get, but the criminals go in your mailbox and steal it. They take your check, they remove what you wrote on the check, the words of the amount of $100, remove the number of the $100, and will rewrite something else in there. Let's say instead of 100, we're going to make it 1,100. And they will go cash that check. And that bank or credit union, wherever they cash it, recognizes it as legitimate because you legitimately have a bank account. But you did not know that someone stole your check, wiped out that area, rewrote it, and cashed it. Right? Got rid of 2 consumers.
Sir O'Brien.
Yes.
I put my own message in the chat, but I had this happen to me in my apartment complex. It was actually a money order, and my money order and several others' money orders were taken out of a box, forged. They changed the to whom name, and they took it somewhere and they cashed it. And the only reason I found out was I got a notice from my apartment complex, like, you didn't pay your rent, and so you have these many days to pay it. And I said, wait a second. And the only thing that saved me was I kept the receipt from my money order. And so I made a police report and things, and then they had printed off this thing, and the person had literally changed everything, and they went to some place that wasn't, we couldn't track it because they put whatever information they wanted to put on it. But never heard anything, but money or the I think it was like MoneyGram, they ended up refunding it, but it took like months for them to go through and investigate it before I actually got the money back to pay for the rent that I had paid. But it was a big headache. So this is like really big. But also, just one more thing, when you talk about fake checks, there was a scam going around where people would say, oh, I'll send this check to you, and, or you want to start this job, we'll pay you ahead of time, but you just send like 500 of the money back or 200 of the money back, and then, you can just keep the rest. And it's like, if you're giving me money for something, like, why would I cash it and then give it back? But what was happening was, you go and cash the check, and the check isn't real. You send the money, they make the money, but now you're responsible for the whole cost of that check because that check was never real. And the bank will make you, if it even passes, but the bank will either make you pay it back or they'll say, no, the check is fraudulent. So that's all.
That's true. Because of that scam that you're talking about, many people have been scammed by just receiving a check out of nowhere, right? Baby boomers, Soror Jackson just brought that up. Baby boomers will receive these fake checks all the time. All the time. Oh, you can have, here's a check for $1,500. You got to pay the taxes and fees, so go cash it. Go cash it, right? Cash it at your bank that we know you probably got $1,500 to cover this bogus check, but we don't care. We want the real money, the real. What's the real? Your money we know you got in the bank that we can't get to you, so we're going to send you this fake check for $1,500. You take out these taxes and fees. The taxes and fees come to about $300. Send us back $300 and you could keep the $1,200. That don't make sense. If you win money, if you getting some money, you don't have to pay for it whatsoever. But we are also in a time that people are hurting for money. Many people are behind in bills. Many of our senior citizens with inflation are just really trying hard to keep up. But free money, people love that. It is so real. Another way they want you to give them money. Don't send us back money. How? Usually, go to MoneyGram, right? Or Western Union and wire that to us. Don't do it that way. Go buy some debit or go buy some credit cards, some gift cards. And then call us back on this number and read us off the numbers on the back of that gift card. They're able to get the money that way. To me, it does not make sense, but there are millions of people who are falling for this. It doesn't make sense. And if right away you're questioning it, you're right. Trust your gut instinct. Money orders, people are stealing them. Shred your checks. If you had old checks from an old bank account, I don't care if they're 20 years old, shred them. Burn them. You can't do much if people are going in the mail and stealing it. You can't do much if someone steals it. If you're sending a check or money order to Consumers Energy and an employee there is stealing it, that's different, right? But I like what Darlene's mentioned about she's not comfortable with the waitress or waiter leaving with their card and then coming back, because guess what they can have in their apron? They can have that little scanning device and put their hand in that apron and scan your credit card as they're walking back, as if they are truly gonna pay for your meal. And they do that. They could still swipe back there and pay for your meal and bring you back your receipt. You wouldn't know whether or not they had those scanners and scan your information. All of this is real. No one sends free money to you and then ask for you to send them back some money. Don't do that. What the state of Michigan has put in place, and I apologize, I can't tell you the year, but we have a piece of legislation the state of Michigan put in place to help protect senior citizens, for them not to be scammed and their money to be stolen from them. Senior citizens were being sent these fake checks. They were then going to their financial institution and cashing the checks. So now what's in place, financial institutions can ask you questions about that check. They know if they're fake or not. Your average check takes how many number of days? Anybody know how many number of days for it to clear? Depending upon your financial institution, usually they say
5 to 7
or
10. 5
10
to 7 days
or 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or 14, because they need it to clear. However, if someone sends you a bogus check for $1,500 and you have $30,000 in your bank account, what do you think your bank gonna do? Your bank gonna give you that money to cash that check because you can cover it, right? And then you find out 2 weeks later that that was a bogus check, and you go to your bank. Can I get my money back from this bogus check? They're gonna ask you some questions. They will start an investigation, but I doubt they give you your money back. So that law has only been in place, I don't even think it's been in place 5 years. Okay? But it protects people. So, it was a law specifically for the elderly. And I apologize for not having it with me in front of me right now. But they asked that for regular citizens also, just not the elderly. Identity theft. That's when your personally identifiable information is stolen. Anything that can personally identify you without your knowledge, and they use it to commit fraud or theft. The most common personally identifiable information is your credit card, financial institution information, your date of birth, your driver's license, medical information, social security number. And we mentioned, and someone mentioned earlier, that it can be expensive. If someone steals your identity, it's expensive because you got to prove it's not you. Next slide, please. Medicare. Medicare. Medicare do not have representatives or agents who come to your home. There are no representatives that come to your home. Don't take calls over the telephone if they call you up. Now, if you're waiting, if you spoke to someone on Medicare, you started that whole conversation, you starting the process to get Medicare, and you give them your number to call them back, and you're waiting for that call, then by all means, and if you believe it's legitimate, have that conversation. But if you're getting a call from Medicare and you're like, why am I getting a call from Medicare? And they're soliciting to you, no, doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that at all. Next slide. I did see the questions. I did see.
Okay.
I want to get those at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Elderly abuse. I want you to look out for your loved ones. It's a blessing to make it to be a senior citizen and older. You guys live every day just like me. We have teenagers, 20-somethings that's not making it. They're dying. If we have our elders with us today, whether it's a friend, a parent, an aunt, or uncle, anyone in your life, elderly abuse could be possible. You need to recognize it. We're not talking physical elderly abuse. We're talking financial elderly abuse. Now, financial elderly abuse also can be viewed as vulnerable adult. Who else is a vulnerable adult? Let's say someone in their 20s or 30s that had a massive stroke, right? They're vulnerable to being abused. That's when their funds are illegally or improper use of their funds, property, and assets, right? Here are some signs. A sudden change in your auntie's power of attorney, right? Why are their bills not being paid? Why don't they have food in their house? Why is their family heirloom missing when you know how much that meant to them? Why are things missing out of their house? Who withdrew these large sums of cash from their account? They don't spend that kind of money, right? When you see these things, those are signs of abuse. It's usually someone close to that person. And believe it or not, more times than not, it's a family member. Or it's a close friend, trusted friend of the family Oh, they wouldn't do that to them. Don't be surprised. You wouldn't think these family members would do that to them. And what do you think the elderly person usually does, or the vulnerable person? When it's a close friend or family, do you think the police report is made? They do not follow through. And yet, they're still out of thousands of dollars. Protect yourself. Help that vulnerable adult. Help them update their will, living trust, power of attorney, caregiver, etc. Help them keep those things updated. That's important. Because let's say 10 years ago, you had all this done, right? Here we are 10 years later, and maybe the person you want to have power of attorney aren't mentally or physically able to now. You don't know what happened. You have to keep these things updated. Next slide. RFID. RFID. What are you talking about? Radio frequency identification. Everyone has a driver's license or ID. On the back of that driver's license ID is an electronic slip. That, or strip. That electronic slip or strip is also on the back of all credit cards and debit cards. If I was a thief, I would have a device that can read your strip, and all I need to be is 10 feet from you, and I can walk past you and scan all your information, and you not even know. Scan it. And I get your information because you don't have a purse or a wallet that's RFID protected. They're usually $5 to $15 to $10 more expensive than a regular wallet. But as you can see on that picture there, the metal, that metal one that has the credit cards and the money, if you keep your credit cards and money in a metal wallet holder like that, they cannot scan your information. That red wallet on top, if that is RFID, it'll have it on the wallet, it would say it, and that would protect you. They cannot walk past you and get that information. Okay? Once they get that information, now you're not a victim of identity theft unless a harm has come to you. That harm would be in the loss of money or someone using your information to apply to a mortgage. Yes, that happens. Or using your information to open up a bank account at a bank where you don't bank at, and then opening up a line of credit. All of these things happen. Protect yourself. Next slide, please. Protect yourself. PayPal, Google Pay, Apple Pay, all those accounts are at risk. I got an email saying your PayPal account, blah, blah, blah. You what they say, you owe such and such money on your PayPal. And I just started laughing. I started laughing. The PayPal account I have that I opened a long time ago, and I think I've only used it. I don't use it that often. The last time I used it for the sorority, but I don't use it that often. You owe money. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't do nothing on that account. And I'm sure that credit card or debit card I put on there probably expired by now. Pay attention. They sent me an email wanting me to pay money. They send you mail in the mail, regular mail. I'm still getting, let me tell you something. Here's a story. I know it's bogus. Your warranty on your appliances are about to run out. Send this money. They're about to run out in 4 weeks. Send this money. I find it funny. Find it very funny because I'm getting the same letter. Same letter. Over a year. They keep sending it. You just got to ignore it. You could go return to sender, but I'm going to keep sending it. I mean, they're going to keep sending it. You just got to recognize. I'm like, warranty? I ain't had no warranty with y'all. Don't start. Recognize it. IRS, FBI will not call you up. Your local police department will not call you up. Local fire department will not call you up and ask for its season of giving. We're now wanting donations. The fire department's asking for donations. They don't do that. The union for the fire department, the union for the police department, they don't call people up, not around here, asking for donations. Don't do it. Police will not call you to give you a heads up. We're coming to arrest you. We don't do that. We're going to come and get you. Okay. Dating websites. So we're now at the end, but I wanted to touch on dating websites, Facebook and Instagram. They're all using these. They're using all of them. I don't know if you noticed, I don't put a lot of pictures. You don't see a lot of pictures of me on Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I've never done dating websites. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but dating websites are being used for fraud to blackmail people. Here's an example. This late 40s woman was on the website, dating websites. She found this guy. They had been seeing each other for 6 months. She decided that she would send him some nude pictures. Right? He is a contractor who's doing work down in the continent of Africa. He asked her to send her money. Now, mind you, he a contractor. You doing contract work in Africa, you making bank. You are making bank. He asked her to send her money. $500. She said she didn't have it. He said, if you don't send me that money, I'm going to post the new pictures you sent me on Facebook for your friends and family to see. So she was in tears when she came to the police department. I told her, take down her Facebook account, shut it all the way down. No contact with him. Block his number, get rid of her cell phone number. And for the rest of her life, never send nude photos to anyone. Never. You do not own, you are not the owner of any pictures of yourself that you post on dating websites, Facebook, Instagram, any social media. You don't own it. You can't make a complaint later that someone took your picture and changed some things and made it look like you in a negative light. You can't do that. You don't own it. Protect yourself. Don't put all these pictures on there, and definitely don't send nude pictures because they are never deleted. Once you post it and you delete it off your account, it's deleted off yours, but it's out there in the web universe. You could never get it back. Anybody can take it and do what they want to with your picture. It's gone. So protect yourself. And I tell this to young women, stop posting pictures of your baby. And I'm sorry, I gotta go there. Stop posting pictures of your baby and children on social media. Human trafficking is real. Kids being kidnapped is real. Women taking pictures of them hardly wearing clothes is real. All it takes is some human trafficker to say, who is that? She's worth about $500,000. We need to go get her. Protect yourself, protect your nieces, protect your nephews. It's just aren't women who are being kidnapped into human trafficking. It's young boys, it's men too. Y'all know the world we live in. Let's be safe. Questions. Let's go
Wow,
into the chat.
Soror O'Bryant, thank you for all of that valuable information. I'm about to lock up everything. Sora McMillan has a few questions, and then Sora Wallace, Sora Maggie, and then Madam President.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm on mute. I'm sorry. So the link is in the chat again for evaluation. Please take time to evaluate our presentation. We would love to hear from you and just let us know how we did today. And great job, Sora O'Brien. Thank you so much. Question from Sora Maggie. Can you speak about the title on to the car and how thieves can use it for fraud?
Absolutely. So everyone here knows your license plate information is on your title. You are given a license plate based on who owns the title of the car, right? Your title is the equivalent of the deed to your house, but it's your car. Do not keep the title of your car in your vehicle. If your vehicle is stolen, or if someone breaks in your vehicle to steal things, they can take that title, fill it out, fake your signature, take it to Secretary of State, and get a new title put in their name. And then get a registration and plate for their car. You got me? Do not keep your title in your car. There's no reason to keep the title of your car in your car. It should be at home in your file cabinet somewhere. There's nothing on that title that you need to, for nothing on it for you to keep it in your car, because your vehicle registration card you get from Secretary of State, that's on that title. Your title is your paper of ownership. Never keep it in your car. Never, ever, ever. And also, this has nothing to do with it, but kind of, sort of. If you sell your car to a private owner, do not allow them to keep the license plate on that car in your name. I don't care if it's family. Do not allow them to keep that license plate, because when you sign the title and they take it to Secretary of State, that license plate can be kept and put in their name if it's within a certain number of days. Most people don't make it to those certain number of days. A lot of people want to continue to ride around with that license plate on the car that you sold them. Right? No one knows that car is sold until they take that title to the Secretary of State. And always get a bill of sale, even if you sell it to the family member. If you sell it to the family member at no cost, I want to say, I think it's your children, mom, sister, is some close relative that you can literally give them the car and gift them to you. But Secretary of State got some crazy rules that they feel you should be charging other people. You can charge whatever you want to for a car, but don't allow them to keep that plate, okay? Any other questions?
There's another question from Melinda Steverson that says, what recourse does someone have if their parents use their identity and ruin their credit, but the victim does not want to file a police report?
That is big. A lot of parents were using their children's social security number to get things. Mind you, we're talking like infants and children. So by the time they're an adult, their credit is horrible. Unfortunately, if you are a victim of a crime, and to prove you're a victim of a crime, you have to make a police report. Most children will not make that police report. Fraud is a felony. All fraud is a felony. Who's going to make a felony police report against their parent? Right? Because if that parent did that when they were a child and they continue to use that social security number many times, that's not one felony. The felony is identity theft. The other felonies follow behind that is, well, you used the bogus account to open up a new consumer's energy account. You used a bogus social security information to get this, to get that. So those parents not only committed the identity theft of their child, using that information to open up legitimate accounts in that child's information, those are all criminal. So criminally, that child would have to make that identity theft police report. And then if those other businesses find out that that's not real, they can charge that person, your parent. You can take your parent to civil court. That's what a child can do. You can sue your parent. How many people gonna sue their parent? I think it's horrible. And it's sad. But I have people in my family that happened to. And I think it's sad. So that's a personal question. You got to look within yourself. What are you going to do? Because it's just not an identity theft. It's more than that. Another question?
Okay. I don't see any more questions, but I do see a couple of comments. Sora Ruth Adelabi said, thank you for the reminder for the RFID. I was only doing this for global reentry, a global reentry card and passport. Sora Winfield said, great advice. Sora Wilson said, thank you, Sora, very informative. Sora Marcella Cheatham said, very useful content. I learned a lot of valuable information. And once again, the evaluation link is in the chat. Thank you.
All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'm through.
I have one comment, Shawn.
Yes, ma'am.
When I went down to the what was it? The place where the county clerk's office, about a year ago, they were giving out cards because people were having their homes sold. Fraud. They were going in, and especially baby boomers who have homes paid off, so they don't think about checking those kind of records. People were going in and changing the names on the property,
on the deed,
and selling people's homes right out from under them. And so they had these little cards, and I took one, and it's a place where, and I thought I got up to go look for it because I thought I kept one, but it's a place where you can go online for the state of Michigan, where you can have a statement put that if a new deed comes up, you have to be contacted.
That's good to know. I have not heard about that, but I do know about that. Okay. And you said that's through the state of Michigan?
Yes, they gave out it's a card they had on a rack in there. And so I went online and I did it. But yes, with the state of Michigan, and not all states have it, because I have some property in another state. And so I tried to do it with that state and it didn't have it. But they, yeah, I was pleased that I found out about it. But yeah, that anytime, if there's any change on the deed or anything that with it before it can be completely processed, they have to contact me. I gave my contact information and a number.
That's very good information. And if I may add this on, I've taken a police report where people had houses for sale. There was a house for sale in Battle Creek. What the scammers were doing, they were going online, searching for houses for sale, And then people who want to move into the area are looking to rent a house, right? So the scammers were finding houses for sale, claiming they own the house, but they were willing to rent it instead of selling it if they could get somebody in there. So all this transaction was done online. So we had people sending them first and last month's rent. They're sending them like $1,500, $2,000. And then they come to Battle Creek and they want to go to the house and they think they're meeting these people and they're not showing up. Right? And then they go, something just doesn't seem right. Then they finally do what? Anybody right now can go on any city or county assessor's website and find out who owns the property. You may not get a phone number because my phone number isn't on down there at the cities, but you could find out who owns the property and you can look into it. And these people have lost money. They were scammed. You have to be careful. If there's any kind of scam out there, or I can't think of any new scams, they're doing it all. Contract people faking like they're contractors wanting to work on your house. You will come and meet them in person. They give you an estimate. Okay, I need $5,000 to go get the equipment, and then you can pay me the balance of 10 because the whole job is 15,000, but I'll take 5 right now. And when it's all completed, you'll owe me 10. You pay them $5,000, you don't see or hear from them ever again. Every kind of scam there is out there. Is out there. So be careful. Identity theft, be careful. I still feel that you need to be using a credit card when you're traveling, not your debit.
Thanks again, Soror O'Bryant, Soror Wallace, Soror Levi, and then Madam President.
Thank you so much, Soror Washington. Again, Soror Bryant, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. As Soror McMillan stated earlier, we do have an evaluation that's posted in the chat. Please, please, please complete our evaluation. That allows us to ensure the value that you're getting from our programming. It also helps us to ensure that we're sharing the information that you need. And you'll also notice on this evaluation, we've got a challenge question in there for you. We really want for you to think about how you're going to use this information for your own personal growth and development later on. So thank you so much. Again, you will find, and we'll repost the link in the chat, but please consider completing our evaluation form. It will only take you a few minutes. Thank you so much, Sorors.
Are we still there?
Yep. Am I up? Okay. All right. So again, before we close out, we did want to offer the time for our presidents or Yvonne Jackson for any closing remarks before we wrap up today.
Excuse me.
Are we good?
Sorry, Yvonne Jackson. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Soror O'Bryant. I think this was great information and at a timely manner. Like she said, people are trying to scam you every which way you can look. So we do have to be diligent and be careful. There were just a few more comments that I just want to make sure she know. So Representative Baker said, thank you. This is real life, which is true. So our guest, Melinda Stevenson, said, much needed, thank you. And so Wilfred Thomas stated, excellent workshop. I agree that this is extremely valuable information, especially appreciated all of the examples to illustrate the risks and the precautions to take. And I also want to state that I go through identity theft and internet training all the time. with Western and with Select Rehab, where I do home care, or I work at a nursing home. But every time I do the training, I would tell you I learn something new every single time. So this information was so needed, and I appreciate you taking out your Saturday to do this with us, Soror O'Bryant, and I appreciate all of our guests, whether sorors or not, attending, so that you can get this information. And I hope that if nothing else, it stops the next person who's trying to get you. I'll just say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, just a thank you to Soror Shawn O'Bryant for this very informative, awesome workshop. You did an amazing job. I appreciated the interaction with the participants as well, and the engagement. So we thank all of the participants as well who joined us this morning, taking the time out of your Saturday to come and join us. And we hope that you are all leaving very informed. I work in banking. I learned a lot actually today. And Soror Shawn, I will be following up with you on how to vet contractors, because that is one thing that freaks me out, paying that money up front, that deposit, and then, you know, having a balance and all of that, and just trying to figure out, like, who do we go to the Better Business Bureau or whatever? Like, how do we best do that? So that's one of my follow-ups that I'm going to take away from this presentation. So again, we thank you all. We hope that you have the wonderful rest of your Saturday, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get the name of that website?
Website?
Which website?
Yeah, for the
website?
title. You can look for the title, see if anyone tries to sell your house. You can get, she was saying she got some card from the,
Soror Presley, she got it from Kalamazoo County, the county building. There's a card down there.
she said she went online and checked it out.
You know what? Try Kalamazoo County clerk, clerk or assessor's office. Because if you want a copy of your deed, that's where you would have to go.
No, not the deed, but she says someone tried to sell your house or change the title name on there, they would notify you.
Right. So then she mentioned a card she had to fill out.
Oh, okay.
Through them. Right. Through them.
Okay.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.